All right, so Mr. Bill, we want to know about rose care. So let's start with pruning.
Pruning. Typically, it used to be February, January, start cutting the canes back.
Okay.
Depending on the size of the cane, 12 to 16 inches. The bigger the cane, you can take it up a little bit more. The smaller the cane, you want to cut them a little bit harder. You want to get the dead wood out, and that's a system that makes it easier. You cut the dead wood out, then you cut the little spindly stuff out, and so it kind of is a pathway to see where you're at. And then you start, and you might have a 8-foot bush, and next thing you know, you got a nub.
Okay.
But they'll come back, the next year you do the same thing all over again.
Okay. All right. And I used to hear people say, yeah, you should prune them in such a way that you can actually put a bowl.
This is
Just
true.
sit a bowl in the middle of it.
And that's pretty much the biggest disease is black spot, but that opens up and you get air, and it's like any shrub. You get air through the bush, so you want it to come up, and you cut out the cross canes. So you want it open.
Okay. Makes sense.
And that just makes a big difference.
Okay. Now let's talk about the $1 million question we always get at the office: fertilizing. I mean, what do we use to fertilize our roses with?
There's a lot of rose tones, some companies that have a fertilizer formula. I pretty much use horse food. Cottonseed meal. You can go to your co-op or some of your box stores, your nurseries. Alfalfa pellets, and that's just an organic that builds the soil, and it's a slow release, and it's still cold. And the good thing about pruning when it's cold in February is the thorns don't eat you alive.
Oh, okay, yeah.
If the season changes and it gets hot and I'm out there instead of overalls and I'm in a t-shirt, I'm just bleeding.
Right.
I add Epsom salt, which is just a wonder drug in my opinion.
Okay.
I add about 2 tablespoons of Epsom salt, and then I'll add some urea or ammonium nitrate or something to kind of kick it in gear, and then scratch that in.
Okay.
And then on the fertilizing, then you'll get your blooms in May, then I'll come back and use a triple 13 or some of the organics and do those about in May. Then it gets hot and they're slowing down a little bit. Then back in September, you start fall fertilizing again for that big bloom in the fall.
Okay.
So your first bloom in the season is your biggest blooms.
Okay.
Your first and last is your biggest blooms. Right now when it's hot, big rows will shrink down to,
Sure.
they just fall apart.
Sure.
But most of and then I'd say your nurseries, go to a reputable nursery. You can get some of these box stores. You can get a little $3 rose. It's like buying a $3 car.
Okay. All right. Okay. You get what you pay for, right?
It's exactly
Okay.
right.
All right.
And you get a good quality rose, and the nursery people can tell you what to recommend, and all of a sudden you'll have a lot better luck.
Sure.
Bloom coat and some of those things, those slow release, triple 14s, those are good. You can just throw them out and rain or water, and it gives you 3 months, and that helps.
Okay. Now let's say, since we're talking about the fertilizer, how about watering though? Because we gotta get that watered in. So how often should we be watering our roses?
Well, just about everything needs about 1 inch a week. Most people kill roses by too much water than not enough water.
Okay.
And you can I hand water mine. Most people have irrigation, but
Sure.
1 inch a week is enough.
Okay.
And they like dry feet, so if they get soggy. I dug a hole one time, was gonna plant a rose, and it filled up with water. And I'm like, this ain't gonna work.
Not the right site for that.
No.
Okay.
Then when you deadhead, after you prune in the spring, when you deadhead, you're just taking a rose in the house for a bouquet, and then you want to cut off that spent bloom.
Okay.
Otherwise, it forms a rose hip, and then the rose thinks it's done its job and produced, and it slows down. So if you're manipulating, so you cut those rose hips off, and then you'll get a bloom. And typically, is something I was amazed, about every 40 to 45 days, once you cut a rose back, it takes that long to get a new cane and another rose.
All right.
You know, when I first had roses, I had roses, and I look out one day and there's no roses.
Right.
And I was just kind of in between a cycle. Now you'll have some floribundas and some of those, and you'll have some, but usually they all come in at the same time and go.
Okay.
So you want to just cut back to, and you want to always leave when you're pruning or deadheading. You want to, you know, a lot of people want these long stem red roses to take in the house.
Sure.
Well, you've got a cane 2 foot long, and they leave it 1.5 inches. They don't leave much to work with.
Wow.
That rose has got to just start all over again.
Okay.
So you want to leave at least 2 sets of leaves. And the old rule of thumb is when you're deadheading, is cut back to a 5 leaf.
Okay, good. I'm glad you mentioned that. Okay.
At the top of the rose, you'll have a 1 and a 2. But the reason being is you're going further down the cane. You want, with a good strong bush, you want pencil thin, a pencil sized cane.
Okay.
If you cut up the top, it'll bloom at the top, but you get a little rose and it's heavy and it's piddly is what my mother used to call it. So you just do that, and then you take your bouquets in the house, you know, and
Oh, that's nice. Now, while we have a little time left, let's go back and talk a little bit about black spots. So how do you get rid of black spots?
well, there's some chemicals that you can use, and that's the biggest thing about roses. You'll get a black
Yes, it
spot, the leaf will turn yellow, the leaf will fall off, and people will say, well, I'm not getting any blooms. Well, it doesn't have any leaves on it.
Right.
And that's the lifeblood of the plant.
Sure.
Most of your, and I was astounded when I first learned this, most of your sprays for black spot is a preventative. So once you've got black spot, you might as well just pick it off and throw it in the garbage can.
Right. Practice good sanitation. Right.
So there's some sprays that you can spray. Most of them are every week. You can get online, and there's some sprays that'll go every 2 weeks. There's some products out that work pretty good that you just spread a granular around the base, and it's got fertilizer and some pesticides. But that's the main health of a rose is good leaves, and if there's no leaves, there's no blooms. So, and you have to be diligent. So if you go on vacation, you come back and all your roses have black spot, you just got to wait to cycle out, and they'll put on new leaves, but you've just lost, you lost some valuable rose time.
Especially if you have a lot of, wind and rain.
Yeah,
It's definitely going to, spread those spores all over the place, which is why it's a good idea to mulch your roses. Don't you agree?
Oh, mulch is, whether it's your roses or it's your tomatoes, the ground's hot. When you fertilize, it's keeping it in the ground, and the ground doesn't get so hard. And it keeps the spores from popping up on the plant.
Okay.
And 2, it just conserves, like today, it's probably going to be 95. It just conserves moisture in the ground.
Sure.
You can tell when somebody's got mulch, and some people are stingy with their mulch. If they've got a little bit on the ground and they can see it and it looks good, it's not doing any good.
Right.
I mean, you want 2 or 3 inches of mulch.
Sure.
I use hardwood mulch. A lot of people use the pine products. The only thing about hardwood mulch is you've got to break it up because it'll turn water. But the plants love it. It keeps the bugs off of them. It keeps the spores off of them, and it helps with the black spot.
All right, Mr. Bill, we appreciate the information about rose care.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please click the subscribe button below.